Economic growth and job creation are one of the Government of Canada's top priorities, especially when it comes to supporting Aboriginal peoples, as seen in the new federal framework for Aboriginal economic development. The framework coincided with the historic signing of the Métis Nation Protocol by the President of the Métis National Council and the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs and Northern Development in September 2008. The federal interlocutor for Métis, Minister Chuck Strahl, described the protocol signing as a major milestone in Métis federal relations.
We built on that relationship a growing level of trust between our two governments, if you will. The personal relationship, which I think is very, very healthy, and a degree of honesty on the issues.
And I know with your leadership, your commitment, that we do have a great potential in moving forward and achieving the things that we've wanted to achieve.
The protocol was a commitment by all sides to work together on issues impacting the Métis Nation: education, fiscal transfers, veterans compensation, and of course, economic development, which is the area which most progress has been made. The bilateral work under the protocol has led to significant federal investments in the financial institutions of the Métis Nation.
Our government is committed to working in partnership with Aboriginals across the country to increase economic development opportunities.
In October 2011, Federal Aboriginal Affairs Minister John Duncan announced the establishment of a Métis Entrepreneurship Fund. The fund, owned and operated by the Métis Nation capital corporations on the prairies, is now able to provide larger loans to Métis entrepreneurs in the range of $250,000 to $1 million to grow their businesses.
This is another concrete measure our government is taking to strengthen the economic development of Aboriginal peoples. This investment's building on our government federal framework for Aboriginal economic development.
The multilateral work under the Métis Nation Protocol has enabled the Federal Aboriginal Affairs Minister, his counterparts from the 5 westernmost provinces, and Métis Nation leaders to join together in 2 Métis Economic Development Symposiums in 2009 and again in 2011. These meetings of ministers and Métis leaders, as well as their senior officials along with industry representatives, have examined ways to collaborate on Métis economic development matters like procurement, access to capital for entrepreneurs, labor force development, and partnerships with industry. The MED's 2011 communiqué called for the development of a Métis economic development strategy by 2013 to deal with these issues. This has set the stage for a series of regional engagement sessions, with particular emphasis on building relationships with industry. Construction giant Ledcor Industries has partnered with the Métis Nation on this initiative because it believes it makes good business sense to tap into a strong and growing skilled Métis workforce. Saskatchewan was the first location to host a Métis Economic Development Forum.
And so this process is bringing it closer to the ground, closer to the people, and bringing local industries to meet with our leadership. So this is what this forum is meant to do today, is to get the dialogue going at the regional level and at the same time feeding into the broader process that we're engaged in.
Prince Albert was a terrific start. Métis business and community leaders from northern Saskatchewan gathered for what was a genuine dialogue and exchange of ideas with industry and government. World uranium giants Cameco and Areva, Sask Energy, Sask Power, and Federal Public Works were just a few of the major presenters on hand to offer insight and guidance on partnerships, procurement, and community economic development. What's learned here and in other locations across the Métis Nation homeland from Ontario to BC will be used to build a Métis Nation economic development strategy, a guide to effectively and efficiently collaborate with government and industry while promoting business and economic opportunity for Métis entrepreneurs and communities. Manitoba, home to more than 100,000 Métis. Winnipeg has a rich Métis history as traders, boatmen, freighters, merchants, and buffalo hunters. Métis were integral to the operation of the fur trade in this region. That entrepreneurial spirit is evident even today. Métis business leaders and the corporate sector were on hand for the day-long trade show and workshop, aimed at bringing the two sides together to discuss best practices and building relationships.
From our point of view, it's huge value in these partnerships. It's a necessity to be competitive, to create these partnerships so that we can influence our abilities to execute work and you as partners can influence your abilities to share in the work within your footprint of your territory.
Nowhere are relationships going to be more important than when it comes to finding the staff, goods, and services to fulfill the demands of a $5.5 billion mega project known as the Northern Gateway Oil Pipeline, being proposed by industry giant Enbridge. Whether it's pipe fitters, caterers, welders, or tugboat operators, there will be plenty of jobs and many skills required.
But I said, so, we're not building a labor force for Gateway. We're talking about building a labor force for the North.
The project will impact several Métis communities along its 1,177-kilometer route from Alberta to the west coast. Enbridge's Andrew Popko says everyone stands to benefit, but more work needs to be done.
And a lot of the court cases are actually going in favor of the Aboriginal and Métis people about consultation and what needs to be done. So I think we need to be cognizant of that process, and that we need to continue to consultate with the Métis.
A people with a strong entrepreneurial tradition who wish to fully participate in a growing economy, but at the same time, we expect to be fully consulted and accommodated on major economic projects affecting our traditional lands.
The Métis Economic Development Summit held in Grande Prairie, Alberta was not only focused on the importance of consultation and accommodation, but it was an opportunity to build an understanding that Métis should be viewed as a valuable resource for any industry. Métis offers skills, goods, and services, and a determination and dedication that are second to none. Mike Ivey with Apitokasan Métis Development says the Capital Corporation will be there to ensure Métis businesses have the financial support to expand, purchase equipment, or build new businesses when opportunity comes knocking.
If a client's having trouble getting access to commercial financing through us, it's because they haven't got a hold of us. Once they get a hold of us and we understand what their needs are, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to do as much as any Schedule A bank will do. I'll tell you that.
Thanks to Apitokasan, there are a growing number of Métis who have joined the business world as entrepreneurs, offering a myriad of goods and services. Their drive, ingenuity, and expertise is in greater demand, but there still remain struggles to encourage governments and industry to realize what Métis have to offer.
Our doors are open. We're willing to do business.
This is the Métis Procurement Conference aimed at bridging the gap. It's an important part of the Métis Nation's economic development strategy and builds upon summits held in Grande Prairie and Prince Albert. Discussed is a unique opportunity for Métis business leaders to learn how to increase their participation as suppliers of goods and services to government and industry, while encouraging industry to re-embrace a partnership that has literally been decades in the making. Al Lewis from the U.S. offered an outside perspective, suggesting Canada should follow the American lead when it comes to procurement.
When the government awards business, there's subcontracting plans that go out with that business that says, we expect you to do X percentage with veteran-owned businesses, X percentage with small disadvantaged businesses, and the only way you can get this award, this business award, is you have to demonstrate that you can do that, right? So, and then they come back and then they measure it.
Lewis says by legislating diversity, it'll be easier to set targets and measure results. It's ideas like this that are being carefully considered with the aim of getting the Canadian economy moving and ensuring that Métis play an integral role. More regional sessions are planned for Northern Ontario and key urban centres in Western Canada. The Métis National Council and Leadcore Industries will bring these regional discussions to a head in a Métis Nation Industry Roundtable in 2013 that'll help shape the strategy of MEDS participants. The MEDS process has been accompanied by significant investments by the federal government and some provinces in Métis Nation loan and equity capital providers, some jointly. This progress under the Métis Nation Protocol and the MEDS process demonstrates what can be achieved when the federal and provincial governments collaborate with the Métis Nation in pursuing mutually beneficial objectives. In fact, the Métis Nation believes the MEDS process can be adapted to key areas such as education. This is where the Aboriginal Affairs Working Group can make a meaningful contribution.